Do you know when you're being manipulated? Picture this. You're texting someone who showered you with attention just weeks ago, and now your messages sit on read for hours. Your chest tightens. You question what you did wrong. You replay conversations in your head. These are the seeds of emotional abuse. Maybe it's the co-worker who takes credit for your ideas while making you doubt your own memory. Maybe it's the partner who alternates between making you feel like the most special person alive and treating you like you're invisible. The research on narcissistic personality disorder reveals something chilling about how certain minds operate. Narcissists aren't just people with big egos or confidence issues. We're looking at individuals whose entire internal system revolves around a relentless pursuit of social status and self-centeredness, often at the expense of everyone around them. This video will help you recognize the psychological blueprint behind manipulative narcissism and give you tools to protect yourself from becoming collateral damage in someone else's status game. By the end, you'll understand how their minds work and why normal empathy rules simply don't apply. Stick around for the practical section, where we'll walk through a defense system that can save your sanity. Now, let's examine what's really happening behind that charming smile. Research on narcissistic personality patterns shows us something most people miss. These individuals live in a constant state of internal whiplash. Their self-esteem doesn't just fluctuate. It violently swings between feeling superior to everyone and feeling like complete failures. Normal narcissism forms the foundation of healthy self-regard. It gives you agency over your thoughts and feelings, helps you set boundaries, and allows you to maintain close relationships while tolerating differences. But pathological narcissism creates something entirely different. A person whose self-esteem becomes completely dependent on external validation and control over others. Think of someone checking their social media obsessively after posting, counting likes and comments, like votes in an election they can't afford to lose. When the validation comes, they feel invincible. When it doesn't, they crash into shame and rage. You become the invisible person again, standing right in front of them. Here's what researchers discovered that changes everything. People with narcissistic patterns don't actually lack empathy. Cognitively, they can read your emotions perfectly well. The problem is, they struggle to emotionally engage with what they're seeing, especially when their own self-esteem feels threatened. Their empathy becomes compromised, not absent, so they have trouble feeling the other person's perspective. This means they know exactly how their words affect you. They see the hurt in your eyes, the way your shoulders drop when they dismiss your feelings. But their ability to care about your pain gets hijacked by their own internal crisis. When they're feeling small, your emotions become irrelevant noise. You weren't asking for too much. You were asking for basic human consideration from someone whose system treats other people's feelings as optional. But recognizing this pattern opens up a different way to protect yourself. Next, we will discuss how status plays a crucial role in the manipulative narcissist's mindset. What drives someone to systematically manipulate others for social ranking? Researchers have mapped out something they call the SPIN model, a four-step process that narcissistic individuals use to obtain and maintain social status in every interaction. First comes situation selection. These individuals gravitate toward public, competitive environments where they can showcase superiority. They choose careers that offer visibility, seek out high-status social circles, and prefer relationships that function as trophies rather than partnerships. Notice how they always want to be seen at the right places with the right people. Next is vigilance. They're constantly scanning for status cues like digital surveillance systems. They monitor who gets attention, who receives praise, and most importantly, who might pose a threat to their position. They track your reactions to their stories, count how many people laughed at their jokes, and file away every slight or sign of disrespect. You become hyper-aware of their moods because they're hyper-aware of everyone else's responses to them. Your nervous system picks up on their constant evaluation of social hierarchy, even when you can't name what feels off about the interaction. The third step is appraisal. They rapidly assess whether each situation calls for self-promotion or tearing others down. When they can elevate themselves, they become charming and impressive. When they feel blocked or threatened, they switch tactics and start devaluing competitors. This isn't random cruelty, it's strategic status management. Finally comes response execution, which splits into two distinct pathways. The admiration pathway involves bragging, showcasing talents, monopolizing conversations, and performing visible acts of generosity that signal their superiority. The rivalry pathway includes insults, gossip, deception, and sometimes outright aggression to knock others down a peg. Viewing oneself as superior implies viewing others as inferior. This single line by counseling psychologist Rashi Berry explains why being around them feels like a constant competition you never signed up for. Their entire system requires other people to occupy lower positions in the hierarchy. This is more than just occasional selfishness or having bad days. This is a pervasive, trait-like pattern of treating every social interaction as an opportunity to climb or defend their position on an invisible ladder. Understanding this helps you stop taking their behavior personally and start protecting yourself strategically. Next, have you ever heard of love bombing? The most insidious manipulation technique begins with overwhelming displays of affection designed to create emotional dependency. Love bombing isn't genuine enthusiasm for a new relationship. It's a calculated strategy to establish control before revealing their true nature. Picture receiving 50 texts in one day from someone you just met, being showered with expensive gifts you didn't ask for, or hearing declarations of love within weeks of knowing each other. Your logical mind might sense something off, but your emotional brain gets flooded with feel-good chemicals that make you crave more of their attention. Researchers found that love bombing functions as psychological manipulation by constructing an image of the bomber as uniquely caring, isolating the relationship in an alternative reality, and conditioning you to expect and reward grand gestures. The rapid pace, boundary crossing, and isolation from your support system aren't accidental. They're features, not bugs. Initially, you might feel safe, secure, and swept off your feet. But once attachment is secured, the devaluation phase begins. The same person who made you feel like the center of the universe suddenly becomes critical, distant, or cruel. Your mind scrambles to understand what changed, often blaming yourself for somehow losing their affection. Studies reveal that among people who recognized narcissistic traits in their partners, grandiose narcissism was the strongest predictor of PTSD symptoms, stronger than abuse frequency, childhood trauma, or even physical violence. The psychological whiplash of being elevated, then discarded, leaves lasting wounds on your nervous system. Your wounds are invisible to others, but they're real. The confusion, self-doubt, and identity breakdowns that follow aren't signs of weakness. They're normal responses to having your reality systematically manipulated by someone you trusted. Love bombing works because it exploits fundamental human needs for connection and validation, then weaponizes those needs for control. You didn't fall for tricks. You responded naturally to what appeared to be genuine affection. But learning to recognize these patterns early can save you from months or years of psychological damage. Now that we've looked at the basic blueprint of a manipulative narcissist, let's look at some practical steps you can start using today. So how does this ancient knowledge about human psychology apply to protecting yourself in modern relationships and social situations? The SEE defense system offers one subtle but powerful practice you can implement immediately. Step 1. Spot the status game. Start noticing when someone consistently steers conversations toward topics where they can demonstrate superiority, constantly monitors reactions for status cues, or switches between building themselves up and tearing others down. Pay attention to how they position themselves in group settings and whether they seem more interested in being admired than in genuine connection. Step 2. Establish emotional boundaries. When you recognize the grandiosity vulnerability swings, avoid getting pulled into their emotional regulation system. During their grandiose moments, don't feed the superiority by offering excessive praise or agreement. During vulnerable moments, you can offer support without taking responsibility for managing their self-esteem or mood. Step 3. Engage strategically. Remember that their empathy is compromised, not absent, especially during self-esteem threats. Set clear, consistent boundaries and communicate directly without emotional reactivity. Don't expect genuine empathy when they're feeling threatened, and don't exhaust yourself trying to make them understand your perspective during these times. You didn't choose to encounter manipulation. You were responding to survival programming. Use these strategies to protect yourself in the future. This practice isn't about becoming cold or cynical. It's about recognizing when someone's psychological patterns make genuine mutuality impossible, so you can adjust your expectations and protect your well-being accordingly. The most freeing realization is this: you're not broken for wanting authentic connection, and you're not naive for believing someone's initial presentation of themselves. You are dealing with individuals whose entire internal system prioritizes status over genuine relationship, whose empathy gets compromised by their own psychological survival mechanisms. You may have run into certain manipulative individuals throughout your life, whether it was your father, mother, or significant other. You're not responsible for managing anyone else's self-esteem roller coaster, and you don't have to sacrifice your sanity to maintain relationships with people whose psychology makes reciprocity impossible. In the end, your awareness is your greatest shield. Thank you for joining me on this exploration into the psychology of manipulative narcissism. If this resonated, please share your reflections in the comments below and subscribe for more journeys into the depths of practical psychology, philosophy, and personal development. Until next time.